Hi everyone, welcome back to Faithfully His. We're so happy to be back. We're so grateful for all of the attention that the podcast has gotten for its first episode. And we're so grateful for all of you to subscribing and liking and sending it, because it got out to a lot more people than we thought it would. And just for sharing it.
Yeah.
Anything to say to our listeners?
No, I just want to, today's topic is very exciting. I think it's a very big topic to be discussed. Do you want to tell them the topic?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about being set apart, and what the world expects from us versus what Jesus calls us to do.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think set apart is?
I think being set apart it's a huge part of the Christian religion, because God calls us to be different. He doesn't want us to follow worldly views. He wants us to follow Him, which at the moment is very different to worldly views. And I think being set apart means that your heart its main goal is to get to the kingdom of heaven, and to get closer with God and experience life through His will and what He wanted from us.
And I think also to remember that being in this world is not our final destination, and we don't live here. This is just, we're passing through here, and eventually we're going to get to eternity, where we're going to have to answer for everything that we've done on earth, And I think, God's main mission for us is to spread the word.
Yes.
So I think being set apart is a massive part of spreading the word.
Yeah, definitely.
Because how will people know that you're different?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite Bible verses for when Jesus calls us to be set apart is in, I think it's 1 Peter 2 verse 9. Peter is telling us that Gentiles or Jew, we are a royal priesthood and we have been chosen and called. It says, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, and a people for God's own possession. And he's talking to all of the Christians, so people who have chosen to follow Jesus. He's talking to them about when persecution comes, you are chosen. Therefore, God will stand up for you. And unfortunately, with being set apart, I think there is persecution that comes to you.
100%. Yeah, that's part of the
especially
deal.
from the world.
So what do you think some of the examples of being set apart is?
So I think it's very different to each person. I think if you are shining Jesus' light, you are being set apart. But how can you shine Jesus' light? Without Bible bashing, for example. And I think that would be the way that you dress would be important. The way that you behave outside of your home would be important. The way that you handle conflict.
Yeah, I was just going to say the way you react to things is very important.
If you get angry, if you start calling names.
Yeah.
The way in South Africa we have taxis. I think the way that you respond to taxis, driving, and
says a lot about
you. And I often see in traffic we'll be driving and on the car there's a sticker of Jesus Saves, and then you just see them popping out the middle finger out of their car to one.
And listen, it's hard. Sometimes your emotions just overcome you.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think if you are serious about showing people the direction to heaven, and you are serious about your relationship with Jesus, you'll want to.
Yeah, and you'll prioritize that.
Yes. Yeah. Because everyone says, to become a Christian, I have to be perfect.
Yeah, none of us are perfect.
It's not true. To become a Christian, you have to, you don't need to do everything that Jesus says. To become a Christian, you need to follow Jesus. Once you follow Jesus and once you fall in love with His word, you will want to follow the things that He asks us to do. It won't be a difficult thing. And I think in being set apart, you will be different. And if people don't say that you're different, there's a problem.
There's something wrong, And I think it should come naturally. It's not something you should force or be like, oh my word, what do I have to do, Once you reach a certain closeness with Jesus, it'll come naturally.
Yeah, and you'll feel that voice in your head saying,
conviction is a real thing.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the conviction versus condemnation?
I think conviction is a good thing. Like, conviction is what we should be feeling as Christians when we shouldn't be doing something, Because I have a friend, like, I always feel convicted when I do something that I shouldn't do, and I'm like, yeah, I really shouldn't be doing this. And then she'll, like, do the same things, and there's no conviction, and, like, it actually confuses me a little bit because it doesn't make sense to me. But then, like, condemnation, that's a bad thing. Like, condemnation is what triggers the downfall of self-love and actually getting closer with Jesus.
Yeah.
Because if the devil is condemning me to feel self-conscious or, like, to hate myself, God says you mustn't hate, and, like, me hating myself is going against his word.
Yeah, but I also think, like, obviously we get convicted. So if I am out and I feel like a drink, personally, I get convicted because I don't feel that I can just have one drink.
Yeah.
And, so I get convicted for that. But if I do have that drink and then I want another one, then I feel so guilty and ashamed of myself. I've stopped because I know better, and before I didn't, but now I do. So I feel so guilty and ashamed for doing that. That's not from God. That feeling of guilt and shame and all of those negative, horrible, like, depression and anxiety, those are from the devil. That's not from God. God convicts you. He's like, Jade, are you sure you should be doing that?
Yeah, maybe don't.
That's not the best idea because you know what happens. You know what happens every time we do that, So that's conviction.
Yeah.
And that's, like you said, it's a good thing. We should be feeling that. But condemnation is so dangerous. And I think that's what is the downfall of most Christians.
Yeah.
Like you said, our relationship with Jesus, it gets affected by stuff like that.
Yeah, because you start to believe those things, and then, like, why would I want to believe in a God that makes me feel that way?
But it also reflects out of us.
Yeah.
So with the whole being set apart thing, if we are feeling condemnation, we're not feeling good about ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not walking in the love of Jesus, the light of Jesus, the kindness of Jesus, the mercy, grace.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus is. And as much as, there are, like, God is also a just God.
Yeah.
And God is also, He's disciplined, just like any father should.
Yeah.
We still, He loves us.
Yeah.
He's never going to attack us for something that we did. And I think getting to know those two things so that it doesn't reflect outwards is such an important thing.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing because, like, the feelings that you have inside, it reflects on the outside so quickly. And, like, people won't look at you and see the light of Jesus if you hate yourself and if you want to change yourself. So I think, like, that's a big thing what you just said, like, it reflects on the outside because it really does, and it turns people away from God. It does. Because if you're out there saying, oh, like, I'm a Christian, I love Jesus, but your life does not reflect it at all.
And fruits.
Yeah.
Fruits of the Spirit. Oh my word. I can't tell you how many times an insecure person who's possibly insecure with how they look, their relationship with Jesus, their family members, their friends, their personality, it could be they're insecure about anything, but as soon as they see, and I'm confident in my relationship with Jesus, I know where I'm going, I know where I'm heading, I know what plans He has for me, it gets attacked. And do you know how hard it is not to judge? Like, me personally, I struggle to judge people like that, not to judge people like that, because, like, when I see it, I get so offended so quickly, and it is something I'm working on, because you take offense, you can't take it, and I think, but with me, the biggest struggle being set apart is what people who don't feel set apart do. Because if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, you don't know what your purpose is, you don't know what your plans are, or you have your own plans, but sometimes they don't work out, and then you go into this deep depression because, what do you do?
But also, like, people that are jealous of you or, like, are insecure about their own lives, like, they attack your character, and when someone attacks your character, like, it hurts, like, your heart, like, you just want to, like, but, like, you can't, because...
And it's not true. Like,
exactly, and it's because they, like, insecure about what they feeling.
Yes.
But sometimes it hurts so badly when they like attack your character and it's like, yeah, I have nothing else now.
That's not emotional thing.
Yeah, emotions is so negative.
But also, as believers, like as soon as you choose to believe in Jesus, you are chosen.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Whether you are lying, lusting, you are chosen. But when you choose to believe in Jesus, you're chosen. And then comes the hard work. Then comes persecution. Then comes the conviction. And because before Jesus, you're not going to feel convicted. You'll lie, it's fine. You'll go drink, it's fine. You'll go, sleep around, it's fine.
No, it's fine. Yeah. Why else would you live?
But once you start following Jesus and you start reading his word and you start taking it seriously, you will start to feel those things.
Yeah.
But it's right. You should. Because that's what Jesus calls us to do. He calls us to be different. So that, why does he call us to be different?
So other people can also see God's light.
Yeah. And I think that's so important because, it's one thing going up to someone and saying, hey, you know God, but you know Jesus, like, you know about Jesus. But it's another thing them coming up to you and saying, why are you different? Yeah. Why did you react like that?
Yeah.
Why don't you drink? Why don't you want to go out with us? Why don't you, what's different? Why are you always at church on Sunday? You know, why, when I try to make plans with you, why do you have church? Like, it's one thing you telling them, but when they start asking questions, it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing. Especially, my favorite is, I'm a teacher, so I always get asked, how do I do it? And my favorite response, Jesus. And it's such a cringy, cliche response. But
it feels so good.
It feels so good. I'm like, because genuinely.
Yeah, I wouldn't be.
I love them. But wow, some days. And I think a lot of the things that I go through in life, it's Jesus. And you need to give glory to him, and that's also part of being set apart. Because
definitely.
Those people who do amazing things, they're like, oh, I did it all by myself. No one must take my glory.
That's pride,
And actually, it's a very important thing to remember that it's God.
Yeah, and your heart came from God, and that's how you got to where you are.
Yeah, and he should be inside your heart as well.
I want to go back to the bearing fruits thing, and I just want to say, if your heart is hard towards Christ, you are not going to be able to bear fruits. That's literally like growing a flower in the middle of the desert.
It's like the parable of the seeds and the sower.
Exactly. You can't, if your heart is hard towards him, you're not going to be able to bear fruit. You need to soften your heart towards him, and you need to understand why you are doing this and why you believe in him.
Yes. Sorry, I want to stop you at that point. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Do you know how many times when I was in Sunday school and youth, we were told, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Why? Why can't I do it? What's going to happen if I do it? And then, what did I do? I did it,
And then it bites you.
And now I know why.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, okay, I understand. Thank you. But before that, I was just, don't do this, don't do that. And obviously, as a youthling, I was not reading my Bible. I was not in my word.
Yeah.
As much as I want to say I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know my Bible. I didn't know, I knew Jesus, I knew who he was, but my relationship with him was very shallow because obviously I don't know his word, so how must I know him, And thank goodness I did have a relationship, so when everything happened, I came back to him. But I didn't understand, why couldn't we do this? Why was that wrong? Why were these people not liked? Why, I think obviously I had to go through it, and now I understand why. But then when I started reading my Bible, it told me why.
Yeah.
I was like, why didn't I do this before?
Yeah, literally, it's like in plain sight, it's right in front of us, and we're still blind to it.
We had to learn that the Bible is not a rule book.
Yeah.
It's not a thing of, you need to do this like this, you need to do that. That's why Jesus came, because it used to be a rule book. The Torah was a rule book. For Jews, they had like 1,000,000 rules. That was something. But when Jesus came, he fulfilled the law. So we didn't need to follow that law anymore as Christians. And now, everything he wrote in the New Testament, it was, don't do this because of this.
Yeah, I think it's a guideline to make your life better.
Yes, because
he wants to protect you.
What are the consequences of
Exactly.
your life?
There's
What are the
consequences to everything that's
I mean,
wicked.
consequences of sleeping with someone, you get pregnant, you get
yeah.
an STD that you can never get rid of, you get AIDS, you know.
Even like, you know, getting drunk all the time, like alcoholism, you know, drug abuse, like everything in the Bible is leading to something that he's trying to protect us from.
And you do stupid things when you're on alcohol or drugs or anything like that, you know. And even, I mean, he calls us to surround ourselves with people like us, a church.
Yeah.
What happens when we're surrounded with people who aren't like us?
Yeah.
You know, it hurts.
Yeah.
Because we can't be ourselves.
Yeah, I think being equally yoked is so important even in friendships. Like.
But yeah, so I think like what point was it that I was saying? Oh, the Bible. So yes, so the Bible, as much as it is something that God wrote for us, it is a guideline. He wants us to be happy. He's our Father, you know, and as much as we'll be persecuted and stuff for following Him, we love Him so much that we want to do everything we can.
That's part of it. I think also, like when I was in baby school, they always used to be like, no,
baby school?
Yeah, like Sunday school. Like baby school in church.
Yeah.
They always used to be like, you know, why do we believe in God? And I was like, to go to heaven. It's like, it became so much bigger than that. Like, you know, getting to heaven, I mean, yeah, that's a reward, that's great. But we love Jesus. That's why we're following him, you know.
Also, who's in heaven?
Exactly.
Why do we want to go to... I have lots of questions for Jesus. And I want to go sit in like a room and then must put like headphones on and a big screen TV, and I want to see from when he was born all the way from when he died. I just want to see it because, you know, I love The Chosen, but obviously it's probably, you know, not exactly like that.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see that, but... Yeah, sorry, go on. Like you were saying.
I think it's just so much more than just getting to heaven, you know. Like we want to be part of Christianity and part of Jesus because we love him and because he came down and saved us, you know. So I think it's just so much like people just think, oh no, I need to do this so that I can get to heaven. Like it needs to be deeper than that. Like it needs to be in your heart, you know.
What do you think about love? Like you mentioned loving in a set apart way.
That's a difficult
because what comes to my mind is Corinthians, like when they speak of love is patient, love is kind. You know, why is that different from worldly love?
I think worldly love, when you have a problem, you know, it's you against your partner. But in Christ, when you have a problem, it's you and your partner against the problem. You know?
Love that.
Thank you. I saw it somewhere. But I just think like there's such a difference between even like with fights, like you know, every couple argues. Like you're not gonna have a couple that doesn't argue about something. But the way in which you argue says so much. Like they say you mustn't go to bed angry. Like that's massive. Like that is a massive thing.
Majority people do.
Exactly. Like.
But also raising your voice at each other. Why is that necessary? You are like. Okay, listen, I'm one to talk because I get angry. But but the thing is, when you are in a couple and you start raising your voices at each other, you need to draw a line. Because that's not love. Love is patient, love is kind, love is, you know, love never fails. You know, that whole paragraph there in Corinthians, you know, it's so important.
And it also like, it brings out a side of a person that you probably, you know, aren't used to, and that can cause fear and that can cause like trust issues. Like it causes a lot and it breaks a lot of trust, and you know it can impact a relationship heavily.
But it also says love is not quick to anger. You know, love doesn't boast, love doesn't brag. You know, and I think the worldly love. And I don't think they know what love is.
No.
Because it's hookup culture.
I think the idea of love has just been lost.
I mean, they can't go a week without falling into lust. You know,
that's why cheating is so, like, focused on in this generation, and, like, the divorce rate is through the roof.
Yeah, because you don't see your girlfriend or boyfriend for a month and then you need to go cheat because you can't. No, it meant nothing. It was just physical. Sorry.
And I also think, that when you're in a godly relationship, like, and being set apart from the world, another thing is, like, Jesus will fight with you. Like, he'll put that plant in your heart that says no. Like, you need to fight for it. You love this person. You choose to love this person. So I'm going to choose to fight for this person.
That's also, if you choose someone, you choose them.
You choose them, yeah. It's a choice at the end of the day, yeah.
And I think, the divorce rate is obviously skyrocketing.
Yeah.
But with godly relationships who are going to church, because church keeps you accountable, it actually is lowered.
Yeah.
But obviously with worldly relationships, let's move in. Let's not get married. I'm not ready for marriage, but I'm ready to move in. And how many couples I know that did that and are now single parents.
Yeah, but what is it, like a foundation built on loose soil is not a good foundation. Yeah.
100%. If it's not built on Jesus, then it's
not going to work, yeah.
What do you think the world does to us when we stand apart? Are set apart?
The world does to us.
They react to us.
I think from my perspective, and from my past, it's not a good reaction.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like people want to know more, but they're like, no, like I'm too cool for this. You know what I mean?
No, I'm too far gone.
Yeah, that's a big thing, yeah. And it's so sad for me, because it's like, you're never too far gone. Like, there's nothing that you can do, and we spoke about this in our intro video, that will, be like God will be like, oh no, I don't want anything to do with you. You're like, there's nothing that you can do that leads you to that. So I think when a worldly person sees a person of God, like, I think it's confusing. Like, I honestly, truly think it's so confusing. Like, if I wasn't brought up in a Christian household, I probably wouldn't be Christian. Like, if your parents, hammer something into your head, that, religion, like, it's a scary thing, like, they weird people, you're gonna believe that. And it's hard to get your mind changed from what you've been raised to believe.
Yeah, but also one of the biggest feelings I've had to deal with is loneliness.
Yeah.
Because it's so tough, because sometimes you go through something, who do you talk to?
Yeah.
Obviously I can come to you, and there's some, friends that I can speak to as well.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's something that just no one will understand except for God. And it can feel so lonely.
Yeah.
And it's the only person you can deal with it with is with God.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking, because you sit there and you're like, God, I want to talk to you, but I'm in such a state right now.
Yeah.
How do I, communicate this? But God hears the cries on your heart, You can literally just sit there and He knows, He knows. But it's so tough. Sometimes I just wish Jesus could walk into my house, sit next to me, and just tell me what to do next,
Yeah, I think that's also a hard thing. When you're lonely, when you have no one else, all you want to do is talk to Jesus, and you do. But sometimes it's like, I just wish I could get a proper response. I wish He could hug me. I wish He could hold. It's such a big thing, and it's hard, but at the end of the day, He's still there. He's listening to you, and He sees everything. So it's worth it,
Yeah. But I think loneliness is a tough one, because people would really experience it so much, especially if you're not in equally yoked friendships or relationships, you're really lonely.
It's so
Now
so
you must
hard.
go through something on top of that, and then also be lonely. And and I think being set apart, people won't understand. I'll explain a situation to someone, they're like, so?
Yeah.
What is hurting me?
But also I think with not equally yoked friends, being set apart is so hard, because if you tell your friend oh, I like this guy, and then they're like, oh, are you gonna sleep with him? And it's like, what? No, it's so hard, because they don't understand, but you're that's crazy.
Do you know how often I used to get told that I'm never gonna find a guy that wants to wait for marriage? I can't even explain. Every time I used to tell someone, because obviously you go out and then people are like, oh, look at that boy. No. He's drinking, or if we had a bride, and they're like, oh, I know this guy. No, thank you. He doesn't go to church. And to try to explain that to them, they don't understand, and they laugh. You're never gonna find someone.
Yeah, and they're like, oh no, your standards are so high, and I'm like, my standards are not high. I'm not taking my children to church alone.
No, exactly, yes. And boys will, I mean, I've seen some on TikTok, I'm not sure how true it is, but, there are boys out there, and there are women out there that will wait,
Yeah. And they want that just as much as you do.
Yes, and they'll lead you into purity.
Yeah.
They won't.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's a beautiful thing.
yeah, me too.
And it's so attractive when they lead you into purity. Like, if you fall and then they are there to hold you up, or they fall and you are there to hold them up.
Because then that also blocks out a whole bunch of like things that like feeling used by someone. You won't feel that, and like feeling like they only want you because of this. Like, there's no worry about them feeling like thinking that.
But also, instead of having a one-dimensional relationship of just physical, you have physical, you have emotional, and you have spiritual. If you're not giving into lust, because then you have, I mean, you can hold hands, physical, emotional. You guys, emotional and spiritual. You're following God's plan. You're following His will.
Yeah.
So So being set apart in love, I think, is a massive thing. But also, people will be drawn to you.
Yeah.
Like, I can't, like, people, they, like, don't understand, but they're drawn to you.
Yeah, it's like moths to a light.
Please don't.
Because I think, like, guys these days, they also, like, they prey on that, purity, and they want to destroy that. And it's like, dude, like...
But that's also the devil.
Yeah, I know, 100%.
How do you feel about the pressure of being set apart?
At the end of the day, it's worth it, but the pressure is, especially I go to a fashion university, and, there's so many mixed, like, religions there and cultures, and like, sometimes it's so hard because the people these days, they have no respect for...
Other people.
Yeah, they have no respect for other people's religions.
Especially Christianity.
Yeah, Christianity is targeted. So, like, I have a cross tattoo, for instance, and someone will be like, no, like, why do you have that? And it's like, because it symbolizes, my religion. And they're like, oh no, like, that's cool. And then, like, they get so, like, and it's like, yeah, they don't want to be friends with me because I believe in God. Like, and sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, that's rough, like, it's not a good feeling. But then I meet friends that love that about me and that want to do that with me, and then it's like, why was I concerned about those people when I have this group here that supports me in this and pushes me for it, So I think the pressure is hard. Sometimes it gets to you, like, it makes you sweat a little, but at the end of the day, God's doing that. He's keeping me from those kind of people, because if I was around those people and became pretty close friends with them, who's to tell that exactly?
Yeah.
So
I feel pressure in a bit of a different way. Like, I've always been a bit of a nerd, so I always liked reading, and so I always struggled with friendships and stuff because I wasn't the popular child, and blah blah blah. But I've always felt pressure with my relationship with Jesus, like, am I doing enough?
Yeah.
Am I being set apart enough?
Yeah.
Am I listening to God enough? And I never felt like I was doing enough. And it was.
But I think that's condemnation. Like, that's what we were talking about earlier.
And I felt like such a failure all the time. But then God gave me this verse. It's Luke 18, verse 17.
Yeah.
And it said, and Jesus was saying, let the little children come, and whoever behaves like the children will inherit the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And something like that. And I felt like he points to children as an example of what to be. What do children do? They're loud, they're trusting, they're honest, they're pure, they are reckless, they're silly, in innocent ways. They have fun, they go swing, they go play sandcastles, they go swim in their costume without even thinking, maybe they don't look great. And I just felt the call that Jesus was saying, Jade, calm down.
Yeah.
I love you are my child. There's nothing you could do.
Yeah.
And he said, you will never be enough on your own.
Yeah.
Never. That's why he sent his son.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why do I need you? If I'm enough on my own, why do I need Jesus?
Yeah.
If my works were enough, why did Jesus need to come? No, it's his grace.
Yeah.
His grace is sufficient for me,
Yeah.
And I still wrestle with that. I still wrestle with that ache of not being enough. And sometimes I'll have a conversation with someone about Jesus, and I'm like, oh, did I say the right thing?
Yeah, that's a
it's
big
so
thing.
tough. But I need to I have come to the conclusion, it's just now I need to actually believe it and live in it, that Jesus came for me. Jesus came because he knew I could never live up without him to, whatever things I have up there for me. But, and I try my best, but there's those days where you just, what am I doing, And I think those days are so important to sit in your word and remember what Jesus says about you.
Yeah.
He says you are loved, he says you are chosen, he says you are valued. Because of him, not on your own.
Yeah.
Never on your own. You could be the best, most perfect person ever, and you still wouldn't be enough because you're doing it on your own. And it's not going to work. And as I look at other people, sometimes I'm like, I just want to be like them, I want what they have, I want to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
But, I'm doing what I'm doing, and God has a plan for me to do that.
Yeah. I saw this one, it was a sermon at our church, and he said, like, your heart alone without Jesus is just darkness. Like, it's ugliness, it's all the bad thoughts and all the bad feelings and mental, like, illnesses and stuff, but God brings the light.
What do you think is one of the biggest mistakes set-apart Christians do?
I think, like saying, I'm going to follow my heart, and, my heart is going to tell me what I need in this world. The Bible says, do not follow your heart because your heart will deceive you. And it says that clear as day, like there's no black and white. It's telling you, don't do that. Your heart is evil. Your heart will lead you to wanting to go have sex before marriage, or to go get drunk every night, or to go do drugs, Do not follow your heart. Exactly, and it makes you feel good. It makes your physical feel good. But the next day is when it all comes tumbling down, and that's...
But also, when they say heart, obviously it's not your actual heart.
Yeah.
You're talking about your emotions.
Yeah.
Because your feelings are valid, but your feelings are wrong. Lust is a feeling, and it gets confused with love. But lust is satisfaction straight away.
Yeah.
So you want to be satisfied. That's lust.
Yeah.
And if that feeling is going to cause you put you into temptation.
Yeah.
It's going to cause you to be tempted. And anger is another on your heart.
Yeah.
Follow your heart. Follow your anger. Follow your fear.
And loving the wrong people.
Yes.
I mean, as much as you love someone, you need to be careful. You need to protect yourself.
Yeah, and I always say, but you're not in English. Yeah, but I love him.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with him. No, you chose to fall in love with him.
It's all an illusion.
Yeah. But, I think that's such a good memory verse there. And I think take it into your week, guys. Like, if you feel that you're following your heart this week, remember, just be careful.
Yeah, protect yourself.
And
let God protect you. He's trying. Just let him
lead you.
Yeah.
Let him lead you. Let him guide you into being set apart. Because there are many verses where it says, don't be of the world.
Yeah.
Follow God.
Yeah, not the
Follow
flesh.
God. Yeah.
There's so many out there. We can actually link them in the description.
And like we said, it's not because God doesn't love us.
Yeah.
It's because He loves us so much that He wants to protect us like a father.
Yeah, it's literally like your dad telling you not to go do drugs.
Because any sin that you commit, it will have consequences.
Yeah.
Whether it's now or in years to come, it will have consequences. And that's also why when you start following God, unfortunately it's not going to be easy because all the stuff that you did before that it has consequences.
Yeah, and you still have to, work through that, and it's a process.
It's a long process, and the longer that you stay away from God,
the worse it gets.
The worse the consequences.
And the devil plays on that. I mean, he wants you to be further away from Jesus.
You're so useless because you stayed away for so long. And
don't read your Bible, you're not worthy of that.
And if you're feeling those emotions, remember God calls you chosen.
Yeah.
He doesn't call you a maybe or...
Yeah, He calls you by name and He chose you.
He knows your name. You are His. He says, you are mine.
Yeah.
In Isaiah, He says, you are mine. And I think that's so important to remember every day. I'm His, I'm His, I'm His. Doesn't matter what the devil says, I'm His.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're going to end it off there for today.
Wrap it up.
That's a wrap. But We will see you in the next episode. We hope you guys enjoyed this video.
Yes, please let us know in the comments anything else you'd like
or
to
any
discuss.
topics. Yeah,
Yes,
any topics.
we saw an amazing topic about now I know Jesus, now what? You know, which we will definitely cover.
Into that.
Thank you for all your support again. We appreciate it so much. I couldn't believe it. I was sitting the whole day and I'm like,
We looking through it.
100 views. You know, it was shocking.
That's great. Yeah, thank you everybody.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing and stuff.
Yeah,
We
and
really do appreciate it.
keep letting God lead you.
Yeah.
Where you need to go, you know. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.